we wanted to bring this to your attention. Christopher has been doing research on the situation in Texas, specifically with the governor who's in Texas, and noticing some things that are off. I wasn't quite feeling it. I was trying to play the side of loving everybody, giving them the benefit of the doubt, and not prejudging. However, I do feel it in spiritually too, that something just isn't quite right, and we've been trying to figure out what it is that doesn't feel right about this situation. And it wasn't until today that I was thinking about Tim Pool has been making this scenario for the last couple of months to where he's wondering how they were going to deal with Biden on the election. Because obviously they're not going to run with him, but they've got to come up with somebody who's a hero to replace him. Now, I'm not saying that it's going to be Greg Abbott, but we can see the setup for this situation happening. And it goes something like this. Tim Pool usually says that, Biden's up on a stage giving a speech, and he has some heart issues or something like that. And then, Gavin Newsom comes running up on the stage, helps him out, gives him CPR, saves his life. And then now he's the new running mate for the Democrats that they want to run against Trump. This dramatic hero swap out for Newsom for Biden. And I was thinking, it's interesting how suddenly, to bring this back to the Texas border thing, suddenly we have this conflict to where you have Greg Abbott, who has a suspicious background. He is registered a Republican, just to be clear. And we haven't seen a whole lot of these pro-America stances from him. If anything, we've seen the opposite of that. And all of a sudden now he's stepping up, defending the border. He's getting a massive movement from other states. I think there's 27 states that have signed to support him. 10 states have actually sent law enforcement to bolster his forces in a show of force. We're in a standoff right now. Something big is happening. And this is one of those spiritual shifts. And we are coming to you in an emergency broadcast live type of a situation because we want you to be aware of this. Pay attention, because you're watching biblical events happen and unfold before your eyes. This is going to be one of those. This seems like it's going to be one of those pivotal shifts, that the outcome of this event is going to shape the course of what happens in the future. What do you think about that?
Yeah. For me, I try not to take stuff at face value. The fact that both sides of the media are agreeing and talking about this is my first.
That's a red flag.
That's a red flag. And Abbott, after doing some digging, he's had the last 3 years to get the border in order. So it's not like he hasn't had time. So
right.
why all of a sudden has he put his foot down? Next, he's a WEF member. Just that right out of the gate for me is, and folks know what I'm saying. So the fact of the matter is, they need someone that's going to continue down this path. I think that the writing is on the wall that there's no way that Biden can win. So they have to figure out a way to continue this train. So Watchful told me what he was thinking, and I was thinking they're going to set him up. I believe that our previous administration, the man that they keep going after, he's going to struggle to keep his mouth shut on this. And I think he's even already said stuff on this. Just like they've tried to get him for January 6th and calling it, the sir. I'm not going to say the full word, but nevertheless, I think they're going to try it again. I think they're going to try to set him up and frame him again because they know that his personality does not allow him to stand by and sit idle. And he's making comments. And this could be one of those situations where even though everybody that's gathering at the border is on the side of peace, just like in the January 6th events, there was feds embedded that enabled the shenanigans. I'm not sure if you guys have seen the release of the tapes and actually know
Yeah.
the truth behind it, but for the most part, it was a peaceful protest until there was agitators
Yep.
and the security on the grounds was allowing people in. I even saw someone that he was handcuffed and they took him around to a back room, and then I guess they didn't notice there was a camera there, and they took his handcuffs off of him and it was like, good job, and a fist bump. So
Wow. Never
you didn't
saw
see
that one.
Oh yeah,
Doesn't
so
surprise me though.
they had one of the protesters handcuffed and they walked him off like he was getting arrested. Turned out he was an undercover Fed, and as soon as they got around the corner in a hallway, they uncuffed him, fist bumped, and that was that. So it's shenanigans are in play.
Yeah.
Uh,
Another scenario I just thought of while you were talking about that is they've been floating the idea of Abbott as a VP for Trump. If they're trying to embed him in his campaign so that something could mysteriously happen to Trump for him to take over, they're accomplishing the same thing as if they were replacing Biden.
yeah, it's. I think they're trying to set him up. It's.
Yeah. One way
I,
or
I
the other,
have.
whatever it is, it seems like a setup.
There's a piece of the puzzle that I just haven't figured out, and I figured if we told you guys that you would help figure it out. It's they need Abbott, and by him acting like the good guy, almost like the savior of the country,
Yeah.
that it's going to pile support behind him. If they set up our previous administration frontman, it'll be the nail in the coffin, because this will be like the second attempt of the N word, the N sir.
Yeah.
So I don't think he'll survive another attack like that, especially if he opens his mouth, which he has been doing, encouraging folks to stand up, send troops, blah, 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 blah. Everybody gets down on the border, and now shots are being fired because we have people embedded into the crowd that are agitators, and we actually have a conflict exchange, like
Yep.
a legit conflict exchange. So, two possible outcomes is that we actually have a destabilizing war happen, the election put on hold because of martial law, or the he's taken off the ballot completely. Everybody loves Abbott because he saved the day, orchestrated everything, and he wins by a landslide by taking Biden to, he just totally, 100% victory. And
Yeah.
they get what they get what they want. They have another WEF in the house.
Yeah, we don't know the future on this one. We're just pointing out, possible scenarios. It's pure speculation. I know personally, I haven't received any revelation on this in regards to what's coming, but we can see the writing on the wall. We can see the spirits moving in this. You've got an administration moving against Greg Abbott. You've got Greg Abbott, which has got a questionable background. One of our members in the chat, Becky, mentioned that she likes Abbott. It's not that we are for or against him. I like what he's doing. Absolutely. He's defending the border finally, and, helping America. It's not about putting people down or not helping people. It's about taking care of your foundation, taking care of your basics, because we have an enemy. And there's an enemy that is absolutely invading us right now. I don't know how many of you may have seen, Glenn Beck had a really good point on his show recently where he talked about there is an invasion tactic. I think this originated with China against Russia, to where they will send 1 million people across a border in order to wear down resources. And it's a form of an invasion. And that is exactly what is happening at our border right now. This is a legal, legitimate invasion that is happening in our country, and we can't stand for that. God had borders around the Garden of Eden. Adam was responsible for defending those borders. It's biblical to have borders. It's not a matter of not loving your neighbor. It's a matter of loving yourself, making sure that you're safe and secure, and then loving your neighbor like yourself. You can't defend somebody if you're dead. So, we're not supposed to just lay down our lives and let people take them, when it's for evil intents and purposes. Jesus was the exception. He was laying down his life for all of us. It wasn't just for the people that were around him. He was laying down his life that is an example. If you're in that situation where you have to lay down your life so that you won't compromise on your morals, that's one thing. We're not talking about that. So don't blur the lines when it comes to that. That's like, we're not loving our neighbors because we're not letting everybody, with evil intent across the border. The idea is, the whole point is there are legal ways to come into this country. There are legal ways of vetting your background and your history so that we can have, protection and comfort in our own country to take care of ourselves so that we can love people. But if we're being invaded, if our resources are being completely whittled down, that's a whole nother thing. And that's what we're pointing out here, is there is a shift that's going on. Something is happening, and this is going to affect what's going on in the future.
Yeah. It's, and I hope I'm wrong, because
Yeah.
Abbott could, there is a chance that Abbott is just, he's a WEF member because he has to play along, and we're totally off base. And he's actually a man that's pure with good intentions. I just have one of these gut feelings. But he seems like he wants the better interest of the country and his state. Though history and people's previous actions, and when you analyze stuff, kind of give you a truer picture. I've seen interviews with him when they've asked him directly about being involved with the WEF. He wouldn't answer the question. He's had 2 or 3 years now to deal with the border crisis. It's his state lines. I understand there's probably shenanigans involved between him and the feds and whatnot, but he's had years. He's the governor. So
Yeah.
And then the fact that the entire mainstream media is all singing the same tune, that's probably the biggest red flag for me. That,
They're never in agreement. That's definitely a red flag.
I know not to take stuff at face value, especially when they're all in sync, pressing a similar story. So I try to read between the lines, guys. And one thing I do know, that our current administration, along with many other administrations around the world, they are all just arms of the same puppet regime. Folks, if I'm not sure if you're able to grasp this or want to understand it, but there is already a new world order that's in play. We see it. They've been meeting in Davos. They're all connected in a giant web. And one of the reasons why I believe they want to take Russia out of the game is because he is pushing back. He's not signing up for it like some of the leaders in some of the other countries. And you'll notice that these leaders that do not sign on for their shenanigans, they paint them as the bad people.